Good morning, guys, and welcome to the Morning Digest. So today we're going to be discussing a topic that I myself find extremely pertinent to talk about, even though it addresses the deepest and darkest recesses of criminality and depravity in our society. And it's a topic that most people want to turn a blind eye to. And if you do that, you are literally giving your children away to a system that is exploiting them sexually, morally, financially, but most of all, it's leading them down a path of godlessness. And that's just exactly what it is. So I want to talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. The most evil woman you could possibly imagine, beyond any reasoning. She is completely morally deficient to levels of which I did not think were possible, especially considering how long she sat on the Supreme Court. However, if you look into who she was appointed by, Bill Clinton, and what he and his wife have been involved with, it makes absolute sense. Now, the reason I'm saying all of this is because Ginsburg is very famous for writings which, if we were to listen to what she says, would fundamentally change everything that America stands for. She stands for the transgenderification of this country. Complete moral depravity, as I've stated before, in terms of sexuality and destruction of the family unit. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. And you may think this is all nonsense, because it's going to sound completely impossible. However, I assure you it's not. And it's all backed up by her own writings. Bader Ginsburg advocated for the age of sexual consent in the United States to include children 12 and younger. I bullshit you not. This is in her own writing. She also stated that prisons should be integrated to include both males and females. However, she doesn't want us using those words at all, because she also wrote that all words describing gender should be erased from society and replaced with other words, even though it leads to bad grammar. Those are her writings. This is what she believes, mind you. This is exactly what she believes. So, why does it come as a surprise to anybody the direction that this country is moving in? When are we going to wake up to the fact that our children are being exploited and have been exploited, and we are ultimately responsible for it because we let it happen? Did you know, this is disgusting but true, did you know that sexual education now includes the teachings that being gay is acceptable? Now, most people would say, hey, that's okay. Wrong. Since when was sexual education supposed to be anything except sexual reproduction? When I went to school and had sexual education, all they talked about was anatomy and how intercourse took place. They never talked about masturbation. They wouldn't even address that subject at all. As they should. They shouldn't talk about that. That's not their place. That's not their place. I honestly don't think they should even be teaching sexual education to begin with, because it leads to the issues that we have right now. It leads to that desensitizes the youth and introduces them to a concept that they are not able to understand mentally, let alone emotionally. They can't even understand the reproductive implications at the age we're teaching them about this stuff. However, we allow our media to push the transgender movement on our children, not only on morning shows, but we've allowed it to infiltrate our public education system to where they are addressing how to masturbate. They are bringing in sex toys to show these children. They are not only talking about gay sex, but they are showing sexual acts and teaching these children about it. And it is absolutely disgusting. When I can turn on Good Morning America and see a 5-year-old drag queen being cheered by a morally depraved audience and being broadcast to millions and millions of people, I can't help but think everything's already been lost. When you talk to the average person, they agree with what I'm saying. It's not until you get a group of people together that have been brainwashed into thinking they don't have the right to disagree with what the media is telling them that it becomes a problem. But this is what they wanted. It's been designed this way. It's Agenda 2020. It's exactly why Bader Ginsburg was put in to the office that she holds. It's the reason she became a member of the Supreme Court. When you have a woman who is advocating for abortions to be constitutionally protected and paid for by taxpayer money under the Constitution, what do you think is going to happen? Let me state a simple fact that nobody can argue. The human life starts at conception. And according to my statistical research, if you've had an abortion, you have contributed to the greatest genocide by far. Do you know how many children have been murdered because of abortion? 1.79 billion. And that's just since the number's been being recorded. And you know what? In one form or another, every one of us is responsible for it. And you know what's more sickening? Is we like to refer to Hitler, Stalin, Mao, all these people as the dredges of society. Throw Marx, Stalin in there too, just for good measure. You know what? We're 100 times worse and don't even realize it. Well, we realize it, but you know, most people aren't willing to open their eyes to the fact that everything around them's pure fucking evil, and it's because, you know, you're not willing to do anything about it. And I'm gonna have to include myself in this, because at the end of the day, me getting on YouTube and telling people about it ain't really accomplishing shit. So next time you want to sit there and preach about Trump being Hitler or something along those lines, or you want to sit there and talk about how you're morally superior than somebody else, but at the same time you send your children to a school that's teaching them that transgenderism is okay and they can choose their gender, while at the same time teaching them that we're preaching science is absolute fucking bullshit, and you're doing nothing but setting your children up to perceive reality as some fantasy world. ultimately, if you allow your children and yourself to be part of this system, you're contributing to the destruction of society. However, there are people like me and 90% of the people out there that are watching this that are fighting against it. And like I said, everything ties together, my friends. Absolutely everything. So what I just told you about Bader Ginsburg has been getting spread around Twitter to much fanfare, and it's getting spread around, and people are finally waking up to the fact that these people are put into our government and into our schools and into places of power in our society for a reason. It's no coincidence that Bader Ginsburg talked about the unification of sexes in the Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. Look what played out over the last year. The Boy Scouts, passed out condoms at their retreat when there wasn't very many females there. So it was kind of like they were advocating for gay sex. I mean, why else would you be passing out condoms at a Boy Scout rally? And then on top of that, they integrated the sexes as well. And you know what? Bader Ginsburg also preached for that. But like I said, there is a silver lining here. Alan Dershowitz was just doing an interview, and he got hit pretty hard by the interviewee when they brought up accusations of him sleeping with underage children because of his ties to Epstein. Like I said, everything is connected, and it's no coincidence that this is slowly trickling into the mainstream media after all the Pizzagate nonsense. Trump signs this executive order that cracks down on human trafficking, child pornography, and all these pedophile rings, and all of this stuff, talking about seizing assets for human rights violations, declaring a national state of emergency, talking about all this stuff. And now all of a sudden, after a year and a half of the media trying to shift the narrative, there's no way out of it. Because now even they're targeting people like Alan Dershowitz. Well, Alan Dershowitz came out and said that these accusations are absolutely unfounded. And he has emails backing up that he can prove he's being framed by the very people accusing him of associating with Epstein and sleeping with underage children. Now he says that he's going to drop these emails, and these emails are going to put people behind bars. And they're going to be people that me and you know by name. Alan Dershowitz is not a low average hitter, if you know what I mean. He's not somebody who's going to make these kind of accusations defending his own character without being able to back them up. He has those emails. And if the mainstream media didn't want everybody knowing about this, they wouldn't have asked him that question. And I don't think they realized what they were getting themselves into. They opened a can of worms up by even bringing this up with Dershowitz, and Dershowitz is smart, and he had an ace up his sleeve. And he knows damn well that he has the evidence to bring these people down. And there's no doubt in my mind that there's video out there from Epstein Island of very powerful people doing very depraved things. A lot of people don't know this, but Epstein paid to have miles of tunnels put underneath his private island that were wired for video and audio. And he spent the last year and a half meticulously paying for the demolition on this island. Why? That's the big question right now. And you have to realize Epstein managed to get a plea bargain out of some very, very serious charges pertaining to underage sexual relations. And if you do your homework, like everybody should be doing, and you trace back to the person who gave him this plea bargain, who do you find at the center of everything? Everything. Mueller. Mueller's at the center of absolutely everything that's gone wrong with this country in the last 10 years. Mueller's one of them people that just happens to be involved in absolutely everything, right along with Hillary Clinton. And you know what's funny about these players that have everything to do with all of these crimes that just so happen to be coming out in the public lately? They all have ties to Epstein, President Trump included. Trump went to that island 2 times. Pretty sure there's record of him getting on that plane and going to that island. Now, what did Trump see while he was there? He doesn't like Epstein. He's come out, straight up said it. What did Trump see? What was Trump offered? What does Trump know? Before he was given insider information, was him interacting with Epstein the catalyst for him looking in to fixing everything he saw wrong with this country? I don't think it's any coincidence that all of this stuff is being talked about at the same time. We have the mainstream media talking about it. You have our favorite number 17 talking about it. And on top of that, you have Bader Ginsburg writing 600 pages advocating the absolute moral destruction of the United States of America. And she's been influencing the narrative for our law for the last, 25, 30 years? Open your eyes to what's going on, people. Our children are the most important asset we have. Without them, we are lost. We need to fight for them. Even if it means sounding crazy, you need to fight for them.